Well, hey there, it's that coding guy here. In this video, I'd like to talk about two fundamental concepts in programming. Now, we're going to specifically talk about them in Java. But those two concepts are data types and variables. And because Java is a strongly typed language, that means we have to tell it what data type is associated with the variable that we're creating. Well, great. You told me what a data type is, but what's this variable thing? A variable is a way to associate a value with a name. And this can be very helpful in programming to keep track of all the different values that we need to make a program run. So on my screen here, you'll notice that I've got a couple of words here and a semicolon. Now, we talked about a variable being a label. So this is the name of my variable here. I want to create a variable called number of continents. And then I've got this word over here. It's hanging out. It's in orange. You'll see a lot of these words on screen right now are in orange. And that's because they are all reserved words for the language itself. So int is a primitive data type. It's short for integer. And integer values are typically whole numbers. So here we are telling Java that we want to create a new variable called number of continents. This variable is going to be associated with values that are integers, they're whole numbers. And in order to create a variable in Java, we must have those two pieces of information, the data type and the name of the variable, at the least, okay? And then we're ending this thought with a semicolon. So there are many different primitive data types out there in Java, and if you go and search in Google for Java primitive data types, I included the Oracle term here. This got me to the Java tutorials and a page that talks about primitive data types. You'll see int here, which is the one on screen, and then byte, short, long, float, double, boolean, and char or char. If you're interested, go check those out. Here we're just going to mess around with int for a little bit and talk about these things, and maybe boolean here in a minute too. So great. We've got int number of continents, and we haven't really given it a value yet. So to give a variable a value, we say that we assign a value to a variable. And in Java, the assignment operator is the equal sign. So if we type equal and 7 here, this is now assigning the value of 7 to the number of continents name. So there's the right side of the equal sign and the left side of the equal sign. So you'll want to think about assigning the thing on the right to the thing on the left. All right. So as I said, we've got this integer. It's a number of continents, and the value is equal to 7. So if we wanted to print that out, if you didn't catch my previous video where we set up Intellij and things like that, go check that out. We printed out a little message there, but we can do that again here too. And if you don't remember the code to do that, that's okay. There's a quick and easy way to get it on screen, and that's by typing SOUT. This is a little macro, a shortcut in code. We'll just type that. It stands for system out. Hit enter, and now we can come down here and type number of continents, and you'll see Like as soon as I typed NU, my hands are off the keyboard now. Our IDE Intellij is helping us out. It's like, hey, did you mean? We call this IntelliSense when these little menus pop up as we type. It's helping us out. So if I want to accept that, I can either hit Tab on my keyboard or Enter, and it's going to fill it in for me, which is awesome. So if we print the value associated with number of continents out to the screen, what do you think we're going to get? Let's find out. We'll run the program here, and I'll magnify this so you guys can see it. That's right, we got 7. We also got process finished with exit code 0, which is fine. That means our program ran with no problems. So we're printing out the value associated with this label, with this variable name, right? So because this is a language, we do have to worry about things like grammar and syntax. So if I reverse the order of my sentence here, then I get these red squiggles. This is highlighted in red now. It's like cannot resolve symbol, number of continents. It doesn't know what to do. The syntax of my sentence, all of these words, is correct. Like this is a valid variable name. This is a data type, but my grammar here is incorrect. So to fix this, what I can do is use Control-Z. It's a very common command to undo. And I can undo here, Control-Z, 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 and put this back to the way it was. We can also use copy and paste, Control-C and Control-V, to quickly move things around if we need to. Control-X will cut. So lots of commands that you're probably familiar with from everyday use on the web and things like that are applicable here. And a quick way, you can always select these guys by dragging over them with the mouse. But a quick way I'm a big fan of is just double clicking. Bang, it gets me that guy. I could come down here, double click on this and paste over top. Now those were the same values, but hopefully you catch my drift. Right on. So let's talk a little bit about terminology. Terminology can be very important. It can also be very confusing in programming because there are a lot of overloaded terms in this industry, and you can have two things mean different things depending on context. It can be pretty intimidating to new folks and trip you up. So let's shorten this up a little bit and talk about this guy here. This is how to create a variable, right? And there's a name for that. This is called a declaration. We are declaring to Java, hey, I got a variable here I want you to know about. We're going to use this. So great. And we can define or declare as many variables as we like. We could say int x, int z, int 3. Uh-oh, that's wrong. Why? What's it say? Identifier expected, not a statement. So I happen to know that you can't use just a number as a variable name. You can use lots of things. You can't use numbers. You can't use symbols. Now, you could have numbers in variable names. You just can't begin a variable name with a number. So we could have int z3, and that would be fine. So you also can't declare the same variable name twice. Once you've got an int z declared, like this is the guy, you can't have another int z, because if you did and you had somehow assigned different values to them, it would be ambiguous to the program on which one you meant, and it's not going to allow that. So there are lots of rules about variable naming. There's lots of best practice involved with variable naming. If you're interested in those, go read up on that in Java, do a little bit of research. What I will say and take the time to talk about here is that the number of continents variable is much more descriptive than X. When I see this, sorry, let me get these in here. When I see number of continents equals 7, I have a pretty good idea about what the number of continents variable itself is referring to. When I see X equals 255, I have no idea about any context. So like, what is that 255? What does it refer to? Why is that important? I don't know. But this is very apparent to myself and others who may be reading my code. And that's why using descriptive variable names is a best practice for Java and for programming in general. You'll also notice that I started my variable name with a lowercase letter. I didn't come in here and say number of continents. This is called camel casing. And so this is the best practice in Java. Lowercase the first letter, and then uppercase the first letter of additional words, and have them all squished together with no spaces. That's the best practice there. I just used it and didn't talk about it, but this is a code comment. If you want to code comment one line, do a double slash there, and the compiler will ignore this line. And the program will ignore it when it executes, which leads to another thing that we can talk about. Java, as well as many other languages, the programs are evaluated top down for the most part. There are some advanced techniques like looping and methods that can get around that a little bit. But for the most part, your program is going to execute from the top down every single time. So when this program runs, it's going to execute line 3 first. This is a comment, so it doesn't do anything. It's just there for information for us and others. And then it executes line 4, it executes line 5, and 6, and then skips down to 8, and then the program ends. So if we wanted to reassign the value of X to be a different number, we can do that. We could say X equals 1. And you'll see here, I haven't really completed my thought yet, right? Why? Let's hover over that. Semicolon expected. Okay. We talked a little bit about grammar and syntax. In code, you can think of one complete thought as a statement, right? And statements must end with semicolons. It's a signal to Java that we completed our thought. It's like a period at the end of a sentence. So this is declaring a variable. We said, hey, Java, I want you to know about Z. It's a thing I'm going to use later. We didn't assign it a value here, so this is called a declaration. A declaration is a specific type of statement. Here we're actually assigning we're actually assigning the value of 255 to this variable that we declared. So not only is this a declaration, we're initializing this variable here. Okay, so initialization is a specific type of declaration, which is a specific type of statement. Lots of verbiage here. Be graceful with yourself. Maybe write down these terms and define them. Go look them up on the web a little bit. Think about the context, and as you go over time, you'll have a better understanding of these things and use them all correctly. But don't worry about getting it all right the first time. There's a lot to take in here, so be graceful with yourself. Slow and steady wins the race, but I would encourage you to be curious, but not to the point of overwhelming yourself. All right? Great. Cheers.